Hey, I'm Christopher Glennon over at Kearney Mesa Dodge Jeep and Ram, and this is the brand new 2024 Dodge Hornet RT. It is an electric plug-in hybrid, so you do have the benefits of both gas and electric. Come get yours today.
I'm C1.
And I'm C2.
And this is Eclipse.
And this is the Christopher Show.
Good day, everybody. As you'll see, the bearded dragon is real as he looks at the camera. Thank you, buddy. We were hoping you'd do that a little bit. His name is Eclipse. This is our little friend. How old is he? 3 years?
Yeah, he's about,
he's 3.5.
Yeah, he's 3.5 now. Yeah.
So they live to be about 8. He's about, what, about 24 inches long, maybe?
I think the last time I measured was like 26, but yeah, close enough.
Somewhere in there.
Somewhere around there.
So, but this is our friend Eclipse. You guys see pictures of him from time to time. I post him on my social media. C2 actually raised him for the first year of his life, so I can't take full credit. But then C2 got busy with some college classes and work.
Busy with work and just life and growing up kind of thing.
And well, then you moved out also, and so you were you had 4 roommates.
No,
10 roommates.
I think it was 6 of us, maybe 7.
Yeah, I mean, so you had a lot of people living in the house. You had a small room, so you couldn't get his cage because his cage is actually a little longer than the table, but about as wide.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it just made sense for me to keep him. I had that 4-bedroom house or whatever it was, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Shoot, I don't know. I don't remember. That place was huge, though.
That was. I finally downsized after that. But yeah, it made more sense for me to keep Eclipse. So this is our little friend, and I post pictures of him from time to time. I've posted a few videos of him eating. And with that, let's get started on our topic for today. And we'll watch Eclipse and make sure that he doesn't try to jump off the table and suicide himself.
Yeah,
Yep. Assassination attempt or some shit like that. Anyway, so that brings us into our topic.
Yeah.
Nice smooth move, right? So Trump assassination attempt, we want to talk about that because it happened yesterday. There's been a lot of news about this. And let's start, I want to start by saying for a moment, I mean, let's keep the firefighter that died saving his family.
Yeah.
Threw himself on his wife and his daughter.
The most honorable way you can as a father, as a husband, as a protector.
And I have to say that if that were my last act as a father, that I saved my family, and it would suck that I died because I wasn't going to be there for them, but at least they know that I love them so much that I put myself before them. Because you know me, I've always done that with you. I've always put you first before me.
Yep. As
you were growing up. So our respects, our prayers to the family of the firefighter that lost his life because of the assassination attempt yesterday. With that, let's go ahead and go into what happened. What was I doing when it happened? I actually had Fox on in the background. I don't normally watch TV, but I was working on the podcast yesterday trying to publish an episode. And while doing that, I heard a scream and I looked up and I'm like, what? And you see Trump being rushed off. It's almost like, I'm watching Fox. I'm pretty sure, hey, yo, buddy, I'm pretty sure it's not a movie that I'm watching. It took me a second because it was surreal.
Yeah.
And then I saw Secret Service rushing him to the vehicle. I'm like, oh, shit. Thank God I have the ability to rewind, so I rewound it. I mean, because I was watching live, I rewound it, and I looked, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you heard the pop, you saw him grab his neck. And like he said, or not he said, but like many people have said from their observation, he literally turned his head. If he hadn't turned his head, it hit here, it would have hit here.
Yep.
If he hadn't turned his head. So thankfully he turned his head at the last second to look up the screen, and instead of... So
back to how you found out you were watching TV while you were working on the podcast episodes.
So yeah, I was working on the podcast, and basically when I looked up, I saw all that going on. I looked and I saw him being taken to his truck, and I'm like, oh shit, that's like some serious stuff. And it's surreal. So you're like, is this really happening right now? Because we haven't had an assassination attempt since Ronald Reagan in 1981, and I was only 5 when that happened.
Yeah.
So I don't remember that. Don't get me wrong. I remembered as I grew up it being in the news and things like that. Like you talk about the man that killed him, you learn it in history class. Like even though it was recent history. So this guy that killed Trump is eventually going to be in the history books here in recent history.
Attempted
to kill Trump. Thank you for that correction.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I found out. I was like, oh my gosh. And then as I had someone else come look, I'm like, holy cow, this is really happening right now. Then I called my mom, and I was trying to explain it to my mom as far as what was going on, and she didn't think it was real either. I'm like, Mom, no, he just got shot. And she's like, is he okay? And since I heard about it in real time, and a lot of others did as well, we're all living through that. Is he dead? Like they literally, he gets up, you see him bleeding, and he rushes to the truck, and you don't hear from him for a while. And I don't care what anybody says, basically, they're not going to tell you anything until they're certain that he's safe. They're going to make sure that he's out of range, so they'll tell you he's okay even if he isn't. And I'm like, until I hear from him, I'm not going to trust what comes out. So that's how I found out. How did you find out?
Well, you texted me while I was at work is how I found out. Immediately went on to Instagram, assuming that I would find some kind of information after you had told me. Found nothing for the first 5 minutes. Finally decided to go over to X, check out what was happening over there, and that's where I began to find videos and I let my other coworkers know, hey, Trump just got shot.
Oh man, I kept rewinding and just trying to digest what had happened because it seemed so unreal. Like I couldn't believe it was literally happening. Kind of like when I heard the Kobe news back in 2020, whatever year he died. That was 2020, right?
2020,
because it was right at the start of the pandemic.
Yep, I was still doing basketball training kind of thing.
Yeah, so there you go, my friend. So anyway, please don't jump. I don't think you will. It's way too far down. But anyway, so that's that. It was kind of comparable. I'm like, this is not happening right now. And then I'm worried that he's. And here's the thing that flashed through my head. Man, if he dies, this is civil war because there are a lot of people that have been waiting for this to happen.
Yeah.
So you're going through social media, you see the things, you confirm it. What about your coworkers? Did they all of a sudden find out at the same time, or did they find out through you?
Pretty much found out through me kind of thing. Because we were all busy with work. I work at a car dealership, so we're all doing different things, whether it's trying to reach out to a customer, sending an email, sending a call, or calling out to somebody. We're all trying to reach a customer, or we're working with the customer at that moment. So the only way that we kind of find out of stuff immediately is word of mouth at the dealership. And I just let a few coworkers know, and then just kind of began to go around kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, it was insane how quickly, like all of a sudden my phone started blowing up because I had seen it in real time and other people were finding out about it. Like even 30 minutes later, people are still just now finding out about it.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout the day, I mean, people treated me kind of like Trump Central because I am so vocal about who I support, and I'm vocal about why I support him, and I'm able to have constructive dialogues about why I support him, even if some people don't agree with me. So anyway, it was when I saw it, he came up bleeding, and so when I finally hit the replay, like literally seconds after it happened, I looked, and the Secret Service surrounds him because they're trying to protect him. He got down after that first hit. Thankfully, after the first hit, he got down. And he said the only reason, or someone said they had spoken with him, but the only reason that he's alive today is because he had turned to look at the screen that had the immigration statistics on it.
That he was needing to look at for that very moment, and it just perfectly timed it, thankfully, to where instead of going straight through his
it would have gone through his cerebellum and through his spinal cord, man. I mean, it literally was you can say a centimeter, but the thing hit him in the ear. It wasn't even a centimeter away. It was a centimeter away from his head. It zipped through his ear, so we can't even say that it almost hit him. It did hit him.
Yeah.
And so when he comes up and his ear's bleeding and I see blood, I'm like, oh shit, he got hit. So now you're wondering, did it hit him this way? Did it graze him? Or did it go in here? And that was my concern because you don't know which way the bullet came from, so you can't tell. And here's the thing, sometimes when injuries happen, it takes a little longer to bleed than other times.
Yep.
And so people are like, oh, he just got grazed. I'm like, I'm not assuming he just got grazed until I know he just got grazed.
Exactly. Because you don't want to hope, you don't want to hope wrong.
Yeah, and then be disappointed and find out that he did die. But
yeah,
I was concerned for our country, man, and I'm like, I'm not going to, until I know, I watched TV for the next couple of hours waiting to make sure that he was okay. And thank God he didn't die, I mean, it's comparable. Here's the interesting thing about that. He has compared himself to Reagan time and again over the course of his presidency and things like that. Well, too much of a comparison at this point, right? Like, I hate to say that, but I'm like, damn, like Reagan got shot and he got shot. And now here's the really dope thing though, is that it raised him to iconic status, dude. I mean, you talk about, there are jokes right now that are going around. He's got a criminal record. He has multiple baby mamas. What else is there about him? You know what I'm talking about? Oh, my other statement that I made to my friend, convicted felon, and my other statement to my friend was, and not only that, but he got shot by a rival gang member and got up pumping his fist, yelling, fight, fight, fight. And that is the picture that got on Time magazine, man. And he's deserved Time magazine for some of the peace in the Middle East stuff that he did and couldn't get those things. But this one, they gave it to him. And here's the really messed up thing, though. It's clearly an assassination attempt.
100%.
They called it an attack.
And there's a difference between an assassination attempt and an attack. An attack is somebody comes up to you punching and fighting. An assassination attempt is somebody plotted, planned, and basically
conspired to kill you.
Yeah.
So no conspiracy theory, conspiracy fact, because the dude was on top of the building, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But yeah, I mean, he came up like a warrior, man, and that's the thing that Democrats are really upset about. One, they wish the guy had never shot at Trump, because the moment he did that, he raised Trump from presidential nominee for the Republican Party to legendary status. Like, Trump was already a legend among Republicans, but the history books will now elevate him that extra step, and now it'll be iconic.
He'll have to be in the history books and for the future generations kind of thing. There was a post that I saw where, like,
more so than Joe Biden.
There was a post though that I saw, and it shows like the photo of him with the flag behind him, like pumping his fist, and it shows like doodles on it, and it's like your great-grandchild's history textbook in 2065.
Now let me ask you this: who was the president before JFK?
Shit.
That's the same way it's going to be 40 years from now. I know a lot of facts, a lot of random facts. I think it was Eisenhower or maybe LBJ. I can't remember who it was, but and that's Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up after I'm done. But even as much random information shit as I know, and I don't know who was before JFK. Yeah. Same thing with, they're going to be like, I'm sorry, who was the president before President Trump? I don't know. So anyway, and with that being said, let's talk about the shooter for a moment. They're saying they know who it is. I know some people are saying that guy still isn't it, like they're trying to figure out who it is. And those are some of the conspiracy theorists. I just saw some of those messages come across. They're saying, I don't think it was that Thomas Cook guy, or whatever his name was, Thomas Cook.
Well, did the FBI confirm it, though?
The FBI's confirmed it, but someone else, I'm just seeing some of the conspiracy theorists right now. And here's the thing, the FBI's confirmed a lot of stuff. They confirmed Russian collusion, right?
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
That never existed.
Yeah.
They confirmed Hunter Biden's laptop. They were great about nailing that one. They called that one, right? They said it was definitely Hunter's. No, they called that Russian disinformation. So the FBI has missed the mark so many times, and let's thank God that the shooter missed the mark yesterday.
Yep.
Liberals shooting a gun, thank God that they aren't always a good aim. But, and I really mean thank God that Trump is alive, because I can't imagine where our nation would be today. But with the FBI making so many missed calls in the past, I'm gonna wait for time to tell on this. There's still a lot of information being digested. They're saying that it was the guy's dad's AR-15,
yep.
And things like that. They always talk about high-capacity magazines. But if you look at, even with the AR-15, someone said, where's the good guy with a gun? And someone else pointed out the sniper on the roof.
That took him out.
Right fucking there, man.
But, oh God, being the...
You've seen a lot of videos, go ahead.
Obviously, but I mean, like, that was just a complete and utter failure of security for a presidential nominee, let alone a former president.
Well, and more than security, this is Secret Service. This is supposed to be the best of the best of the best, the elite. And let me say this, the one cool thing I saw, and man, God bless these guys, because they formed a circle around Trump that was literally a body shield to catch a bullet. Like, their whole reason for being there. Don't get me wrong, I know they're wearing armor or whatever, but the chance is they can still get shot in the head. They can still be killed just as easily as anything. And nobody knows whether it was one shooter or multiple shooters in that moment. That is brave, man. They literally formed a shield around Trump. And as much as they were trying to hold him down, he goes, let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes. I'm like, did he take off his shoes before he stood to speak? And it's possible, because I know that I stand at my desk every day barefoot, because, I couldn't imagine being in shoes all day because it's more comfortable. But even when I was in an office, I'd take my shoes off to stand to speak, because you're on video conferences and things like that during the day. So anyway, I understood that. But then the next line's out of his mouth. Wait, wait, wait. 3 times yelled wait. And then started pumping his fist and said fight. And then you saw his face get even more assertive, more strong, more warrior-like. Fight. And then you've got the blood across his face, man. It's such a patriotic moment. Fight. Like, he's putting his life on the line, because he didn't know if there were more shooters.
No.
And I've watched a lot of FBI analysts and things like that on CNN, MSNBC, because I've been watching across the media, ABC News, Fox News. I've been scanning all of them. And the funny thing is, they all say that the Secret Service never should have let him get to that point to where he stood up and subjected himself to possibly being shot again.
Yep.
But he wanted it so badly, and he's such a dominant force that even if you think about that from an alpha male standpoint, he told the alpha of the alpha, like Secret Service people are like alpha kind of personalities.
Yeah.
And he told them, wait. And he still controlled.
Well, you were telling me as well, that's what his show that he had, The Apprentice, was about, pretty much, was learning to seize a moment, kind of thing, seize an opportunity.
And he absolutely did. You're right. So The Apprentice taught him about theatrics.
Yep.
And so, not to say this was theatrical, but it was him recognizing the moment when he's in it. a lot of leaders get in moments and they miss moments to take opportunities to make the point. And while he was in his most vulnerable, when he almost died, like this is not like, oh, like they missed him by a mile. No, they fucking hit his ear. There was no miss. It's like they say a near miss. That would be a near miss, I guess. That's the definition of near miss. It means a hit.
Mm-hmm.
It was a near miss, yeah, but it was a fucking hit, you know?
Yep.
So, I mean, he got hit by a bullet, dude, and he still stood up like a gangster.
Yeah.
Dude, that was, for me, in that moment, one, I was angry that someone had tried killing him. And then two, I was proud of him seizing the moment to go, hey, I want all of my supporters to know that if I die right now, I want you to continue the fight.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, it brought more. I know that I was watching it earlier too, is that he's changing his subject from his speech at the RNC, going from being about fighting to being about unity now. And that's exactly what had happened after him getting shot. There are more people of every race, every ethnicity, every, you know, financial status kind of thing. They're coming together to realize now that, hey, this should not have happened. It basically brought unity together where they're like, hey, that's my guy, I've got his back now. The people who were swing votes are now, well, of course the UFC, but the people who are swing votes now are like, why would somebody try to take his life kind of thing?
Yeah, and the cool thing is you have seen the Democrats rise, and I'm going to give them credit because they're at least being tasteful about this. They've been extremely distasteful over the last several months, and they're part of the reason, in my mind, they're part of the reason that it got to this point because they had created a tinderbox. They were calling him Hitler. They were comparing things that he said to Hitler, even though he wasn't quoting Hitler. It's just that Hitler had some phrases that were patriotic. And so when you're saying patriotic stuff, it's not just Hitler used it. Other leaders have used the same stuff. It's just they would take it out of context, man, and blew it out of proportion. And then they use phrases like he is an existential threat to democracy. Yep. And I'm like, man, you guys are setting this. And I told you this. I said, man, I won't go into politics. Why did I say I wouldn't go into politics?
Same reason.
I said because somebody's going to get shot, didn't I? And I don't want to be in politics and be one of those people that gets shot. And more than that, I don't want my family at risk.
Go ahead. Real quick, I know you were saying that this has been happening over the course of the last month, but the thing is that this has been happening over the course of his presidency, back before COVID even. You had the Democratic mayors and Democratic politicians saying if you see a MAGA supporter in a restaurant, go cause a disturbance.
Kick their ass.
Ruin their lunch. Go ruin their day.
Maxine Waters said kick them out of the restaurant. And here's the thing, there have been videos to come out now since all of this happened showing all of them that said, and the reason I say the last month is I'm talking about the Supreme Court ruling that gave him presidential immunity.
Yep.
When that came out, even before it came out, because of some judge in Washington, D.C. that made a stupid ass analogy. She said, so if the president wants to order his political opponent assassinated, can he do that and be immune? That was never what Trump was referring to. He always said, in line of official responsibilities. If a president is doing something, and we have to have presidential immunity. When I was a kid, I'd always heard about presidential immunity because as a president, you are forced to make tough decisions day in and day out. And so...
And if there were no presidential immunity, Barack needs to be in jail because of the bombs that he had sent over to Syria and the Middle East that killed innocent civilians.
Yeah. And I think we're good with that going off. I mean, we kind of know where we're going with this. So anyway, so there was all of that going on, and the presidential immunity thing, like you go to Barack, you go to Bush, because Bush lied to us. Like, dude, I was talking to somebody today. One of my biggest disappointments in my youth was I heard Bush say weapons of mass destruction, and it gaslit me. Now, we didn't call it gaslighting back then, but it definitely made me go, oh, we really do need to consider taking Saddam Hussein and arresting him and taking him out of power. And on top of that, Saddam Hussein was toying with the U.S. and other countries by literally flying in the no-fly zone and things like that. So Saddam was taunting people anyway, but the reality is part of what they used to justify that was Saddam had weapons of mass destruction. So this is where our government gets dangerous sometimes, and they say things they shouldn't say or do things they shouldn't do.
They manipulate the public so that they can suffice their agenda of whatever it is. I mean, with, like you're saying, it was to take Saddam Hussein out. I don't know, I know history a little bit, I don't know exactly what the real purpose behind it was, but for them to lie saying that there was weapons of mass destruction when there were clearly no weapons of mass destruction.
Well, and we sent a task force in after they invaded Iraq and said, find the weapons, find the weapons. They never found weapons, so then they started another rumor and said, oh, they must have shuttled them off to Iran before we got there. The nuclear commission or whatever that went in to investigate for that stuff. And the reality is you have to have presidential immunity because there are certain things that you do. And here's the thing. Maybe Bush knew about other things that were going to happen if he didn't do that we've never heard about, that we may not hear for another 40 years.
Classified still.
Classified, exactly. But that got us into a war in Afghanistan for 20 years. We lost a lot more soldiers. Like we talk about the 3,500 people we lost on 9/11, but then we lost another 3,000 to 5,000 people, I think, over the years. We may have lost more than that. I lost count of the numbers that we lost of soldiers. So we got in a war, and now you look at Ukraine and stuff like that, and people act like it's innocent. It's not innocent.
No.
And they're like, oh, we're not sending our soldiers. Not yet. Like Afghanistan and 9/11 didn't start out with us, putting everything on the line, but then it got there after the weapons of mass destruction. We sent in troops. Like they took it from a monitor situation into a war situation. Right now, Ukraine is a monitor situation. So pulling this back to the assassination attempt, though, I'm passionate about it. Obviously, I'm angry because it could have caused civil war if they'd actually killed him.
The only part I'm happy about are the memes that have come out about it. Oh my god, those memes are fucking
50 Cent's a boss, dude. For everything he's doing for Trump.
He freaking, he had his concert in Boston last night. Has the photo of his album. I can't remember the name of the album right now.
Oh yeah, I know. It's got the guy with the chains on it.
Well, it's 50 Cent with the chains on, buff, shirtless, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's got Donald Trump's face over it. He's singing "Many Men" as a tribute to Donald Trump for it.
Oh man, I pray that at the RNC he comes out to "Many Men," followed by "God Bless America" or "God Bless the USA."
I hope he comes out to "Many Men" with 50 Cent performing it live, because that would be dope as hell.
That would be
that or at the next rally for him, but either one.
That would be a boss move, like to come out with "Many Men." Yeah, and so the next big thing that's coming up tomorrow is the VP pick tomorrow. But before we get to that, I wanted to talk about one more element of this whole thing. So as many people that have come out, Bill Clinton's come out, Obama's come out, Joe Biden's come out, world leaders have come out, you mentioned earlier. Modi of India came out and said they're all saying political violence. Violence has no place in the political arena. These are people that are representing you.
The president of, I think it's Argentina as well, I want to say.
The president of Hungary, I know, over in Europe.
Well, yeah.
But the president, you're talking about the country in South America that had a conservative win, right?
Yeah.
I can't think of which country that was. I think it is Argentina.
But he's saying the same thing of like, hey, I'm behind Trump. This is irresponsible. This is incomprehensible, pretty much. Incomprehensible, my bad.
Oh, good.
But he's like, this is horrible to watch what's supposed to be the country of freedom and democracy stoop to these lows of, I hate this person so much, let me kill them because they go against what I believe in.
Well, and that's what makes me sad for this country, man. We are supposed to be the leader of the world in democracy. And let me say this, I'm going to put culpability where it lies. It lies on mainstream media.
Yep.
Because they are Democrat mouthpieces. They are propaganda artists. They are liars, absolute liars, because I've watched them lie straight up. They twist things in such a way to make Trump seem like he's the Antichrist, or that he's Lucifer, or whatever. And then they vilify him, and then they compare him to Hitler, and then they call for, and technically they were calling for, because they basically said, Biden, you can assassinate him now, and not be held culpable.
It's not even just the mainstream media, it's the influencers now too, the celebrity figures. There's a TikToker who, his name's
Harry Sisson?
Yes, sir.
That fucking pussy.
100%. But he was saying that, now Biden can go ahead and place a hit on Trump and the members of SCOTUS because it's an official act. No, Harry, you idiot. That's not what he's saying. That's
These people are so reckless because they have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. And the one thing I find solace in is, as much as there are people like that, and we're going to go past influencer in a minute, at least there are influencers who are on Trump's side that are able to speak up. Because for the longest time, if you were a Hollywood celebrity, you could only speak up in support of Democrats.
Yep.
Finally, conservatives got tired. They said, hey, we're here too.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I mean, Mark Wahlberg, I don't know exactly.
Well, and Mark Wahlberg's a more recent one, but I'm talking about when Trump was president. There were conservatives that started saying, hey, I'm conservative. They were willing to sacrifice gigs in their future because they came out and they said, so once I do this, I know that I can't get any more gigs because I'm a conservative.
I won't get any more jobs. I'm going to start to lose money. And it's along the same lines of what President Trump did. I saw a post yesterday.
Oh, he was such a nice guy until he ran for office.
Not just that, but I saw a post yesterday that said, he's 78, a billionaire, and he's now been convicted, he's got a mugshot, he's had his life threatened. He doesn't need to do this. The reason he's doing this is for the American citizen.
All he had to do was go into retirement and be quiet, and Democrats would have been happy, and they would have left him alone, and he would have no charges. Even that Stormy Daniels shit never would have come up.
Exactly.
Gene Carroll, that bogus case, that never would have come up. The fact that he couldn't defend himself in that or whatever in the public eye, and now some of that may be unwound because of the presidential immunity, because he was a president, and so he was defending the position of the president by speaking out against that. I think that he should look to unwind that, using some of that from a legal status point.
I have no idea about
so,
that.
And that's more complicated and more stuff to get to. But coming back, so we're talking about the influencers of UFC fighters. I love it. They were like, that's my guy. Country music artist last night. One of them was like, 30 minutes ago, President Trump had an assassination attempt on his life. And so as many good people, or as many bad people as there are on the influencer side, there are good people on the influencer side as well. But what really got me, and this pissed me off, and I'm still seeing it, they want to call MAGA cultist and things like that. I see regular, everyday people. I posted, as soon as it happened, I screen recorded the TV and then posted it to my social media. And sure enough, one of my friends, someone I've known for 10 years, used to know from the gym, goes on my post and says, good, fuck him, he's a racist. And so I responded back and said, that's very distasteful. I said, I respect your political ideology, you can believe whatever you want, but to say that about a past or current president, whether it's Joe Biden or whomever, is extremely distasteful. And so it wound up in a back and forth for a couple of statements. Then he deleted his comment because other friends of mine started going at him too. They're like, really? That's way out of line.
100%.
So he deleted it, then he unfollowed me and removed me as a follower of him. I'm like, I don't care, like, good riddance, bro. Like, you freaking, if you're removing me because I defended a distasteful statement, or I advised you that something was distasteful, because I was not disrespectful to him, because he is a friend. I said, hit me up, let's talk about it, let's chop it up, like whatever, you know? And instead, he removes me as a follower and unfriends me. Fine, good riddance. If you can't have a mature conversation, if you can't agree to disagree, and this is what I see a lot from people, and it's not just liberals, it's conservatives that do this stuff too now.
Yeah.
People need to talk again, they need to agree to disagree, but you should never be okay with a former president or a current president. I don't want Joe Biden. If same thing happened to Joe Biden, I'd be like, whoa, shit.
Never this hostile between the two parties until Trump began to run for office, and they started making it hostile. And by them, I mean the mainstream media, the main media.
Oh, man, and he brought it to us. He said, hey, it's fake news. And there's a part of you that goes, man, it does feel like the news has always been kind of fake. And then you start questioning it. And this is where the red pill thing came from, the Matrix and stuff like that. They're like, wow, I've been red pilled, you know?
Yep, because people, well, the thing is, I mean, before that, I mean, the internet was still around in the, 2010, 2012, before 2016. The thing was, as more and more people began to get into the internet, being able to actually learn how to research, how to look up actual facts and statistics.
More resources.
Exactly, more resources became available. More people are being able to be woken up to what's actually factual versus what's, the media is telling them.
Yeah, and so even with me, I mean, you know me, I read all day long and I listen to Audible books. Like, all I ever do is I consume information, almost like the guy from Suits. What's his, Mike?
Oh, fucking yeah, Mike.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not on Mike's level in terms of being able to physically remember every word on a page, but I consume information at a rapid rate, and you know this.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen me do it. I absorb so much information, but even with me, I always wanted source data, so I stopped believing the news and started challenging what was being said. And when I did, I found myself on the side of going, the news is fucking lying. And then you start looking at the source video, because in the past, when you only had CNN, MSNBC, and all of them to show you videos, you had to believe what you were seeing. You couldn't tell if they were editing it or if it was real time. The other thing that happened is cameras.
Yep.
Cameras, people, the average Joe became a journalist without meaning to become a journalist.
Yep.
And the reason I say that's so important is because then you had the actual video from the people recording. And this goes for cop things as well. Like, people always talked about police brutality. Well, now you got to see it. Then police started wearing body cameras, so then you got to see that as well. You got to see all these different angles of a situation to understand all the different stories, because I love the police. I'm never going to go at them, but I can't say that they're always perfect in what they do.
No, of course.
But it's one of those things where now we have video, because there's always three sides of a story. There's his side, her side, and then what really happened. So, anyway, and the reason that's so important is yesterday when all of this went down, CNN showing their video, MSNBC showing their video, Fox is showing their video, ABC showing their video, and then you go on Twitter.
And the thing is when you're watching CNN and MSNBC, the way that they are propping it up and showing it on the TV, oh, we just heard some loud sounds right now. Trump fell down, they kept trying to make it
Fell
sound
on stage, they weren't giving it the seriousness that it
no.
required.
And then hours later, they had to recant everything that they were trying to say, pretty much of, oh, it was just loud sounds. No, it was a gunshots that they heard.
Well, and to your point, they refused to call it an assassination attempt for a while, and that's exactly what it was. I mean, the dude's bleeding from the ear after hearing pop, pop, pop.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, well, it sounds like Trump may have had something happen. It may have been fireworks. They were saying it may have been fireworks.
There's literally a photo going around right now where the guy just so happened to time the photo that he took perfectly.
Oh, the bullet.
Where the bullet is literally just right off of his ear, going right behind his head, pretty much.
I saw that one too. You see the trail.
Yep.
So, and I made this, it's not a big joke, but I made a joke yesterday. I told you, I don't know if you saw it or not, because we send so much information back and forth, but I said, I know how he dodged the bullet. It was flash time.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, and for those of you that don't know, obviously we're superhero fans. I have a Punisher shirt on today.
Yeah,
He's a Spider-Man cup. I have My Hero Academia, so anime, superhero stuff. But anyway, and then there was the Matrix thing that came out.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's been a field day with
I think my favorite one was Trump gets shot and walks off the stage better than Biden does without having anything happen to him.
So your girlfriend, Deidre, she actually mentioned that to me earlier today, and so I posted an update based on it, but I said, Biden can't find his way off the stage. My president gets shot and finds his way off the stage. Our presidents are not the same.
Yep.
So it was a little twist on it, but really funny. And so, but obviously not funny with the situation with Trump, but funny in that regard. So the people that are leaving nasty comments, be better. I mean, now let's wrap this up with a good point. The good point is what everybody's saying. We need to calm down. To your point earlier, you mentioned Trump rewrote his speech for the RNC.
Yep.
And I would too. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Now, here's the other thing real quick before I get to that point. You know me. If some shit like that had happened to me, I'd be making dark humor. Like when I was in India and almost died, I sent you some dark humor jokes. So many jokes that came across that way.
Oh, yeah.
And that was...
We sent them both back and forth, too.
Well, that's
the only way you can...
And you have to do it in the moment. We'll talk about the other thing about my dad later. We can talk about dark humor on an episode.
Yeah, we'll do that next time.
So anyway, but in that moment, I'm like, if I were Trump, I'd be like as a boss. I mean, and the cool thing was he came out and the first thing he did was he thanked the Secret Service for protecting him.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of scrutiny in the coming days about the Secret Service, what they could have done better. Monday morning quarterbacking, I saw Dan Bongino doesn't want to use that word, but that's what it really is. But that building that the shooter was on, let's talk about that real quick before we wrap this up. I do want to get to the treating each other better, but that's got to come from, I'll just say it, that has to come from the Democrat media. Their media propaganda stations and outlets need to cut the bullshit.
Yep.
Let's be candid about that. Cut the fucking bullshit. Stop calling him Hitler. Stop saying he's an existential threat. Stop saying that Biden has the power to assassinate him because of presidential immunity, because he absolutely does not. And every president, while having presidential immunity, absolutely can be prosecuted by Congress. Presidential immunity does not mean free from prosecution. It means that for official acts, you have presidential immunity, and if Congress sees you doing something unofficial, they will absolutely prosecute you for it. So don't get that twisted. And now with that, going to the layout of the scene, I've looked at it strategically. You've played enough games where with Fortnite and your team members, and what other games have you played?
Black Ops 1, 2.
And that building is so obvious. A straight line of shot to the president, 150 yards away. It was 148 yards per the measurement.
Yeah.
So, and then thank God for all the personal journalists that were around there that were recording at the time. And I mean, individuals like you and me that had cameras, because then we got the real footage of them yelling at the police, shooter, shooter, guy on the roof, guy on the roof. And the guy's, what's it called?
Army crawling.
Arm crawling up the roof.
Army.
Dude, army crawling up the roof. There's another word for it that I'm thinking of anyway. And so he's crawling up the roof in that way. What else could he be crawling up that way for? You know? And one thing I will say that I think is really, hopefully, something positive that did come out of this is now the other people that are thinking about assassinating a president have found out how quickly they get shot in the head. Yep. So the really funny thing that I mentioned to you yesterday because of my dark sense of humor is the final thing that went through that guy's mind before the bullet was, oh, fuck, I missed.
And twice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck, they didn't. And it's, you know, it's sad, but hopefully that discourages any other shooters. And I don't think any other shooters are going to try right now because now there's so much security.
And I know you were saying that there was a rumor going around. I'm not sure whether or not it was confirmed or not yet, but that the Trump campaign had asked for more security,
Okay,
and
so
they were denied.
Yep. So Mayorkas, the statement yesterday that I heard on the news, maybe today, is he had asked Mayorkas for more security, to beef up security for him, and Mayorkas denied that. Mayorkas, in case you don't know, for those who don't know, he's the guy that's responsible for the immigration debacle that we have right now and for homeland security and things like that. So he's the one that's created a lot of the situations that we have. He was recently impeached because of his ineptitude. And so it looks like he has failed once again. I pray that some of this finger pointing gets done at him, especially if he did that. The cool thing is Biden, again, like I said, now the Democrat Party's acting a little, they can't act reckless at this point, because if they do, it's going to reflect very negatively on them. Like they're upset that they're in the situation they are with a political election on the line, but they have to toe the line. They have to be diplomatic. And so Biden has beefed up security for Trump going forward. The RNC convention, like I said, is tomorrow night, so we'll see what happens there. So with that, should we wrap it up? You got anything else you want to add?
No.
All right. Well, with that, I'm C1.
I'm C2.
And
That's
this
Eclipse.
is and this. I'm sorry. Let's do that again. I'm C1.
I'm C2.
And this is Eclipse. And this has been the Christopher Show.
The Merchant Card Group. If your business needs payment processing services, hit me up and I'll give you a referral code. With my referral code, send them your statement, and if they can't beat your current cost, they will give you $250. That's how confident they are that they can beat your cost. You can reach me at CA Glennon on Instagram or at 619-249-9328.